Hi, Scorpio. Alright, welcome to space. Happiest now. I hope you're doing good. If you're not, remember everything gets better. There's always waves of stuff, right? Although I feel like you're in a good position right now, if you want to be. Want to feel that way, I guess. So, Scorpio, actually I already recorded your reading, and it talked a lot about advice. So maybe this would be a nice time to receive counsel, or maybe some of you may connect to your spiritual teachers more, or maybe there's something you could even connect to new kinds of people that could help you grow. Also see you being very compassionate for others in this time. Maybe where it used to be, where it was just hard, easier to see the cloudy part, it's like you can now see the clearer part better, or that's where the focus is. Remember, the power of your mind is so strong, right? You create your reality, really. I pulled out this book. I want to see if there's anything else I'd like to mention. Oh, your neighbor Libra talked about la resistance. La resistance. Which is good boundaries, right? Saying no to something that's wrong, which is always a plus. Which, in essence, I suppose, could be done by just saying yes to the things that you know are right. But sometimes that's murky, right? Especially when you care so deeply, or you have a lot of emotion and connected to something. It's like, it can take a minute to find the faith in that. So, I saw Jupiter in the 12th for you. So you could put Jupiter there and in your map, and like, what does that look like? But this also says this. It says, at this time you have a capacity to learn a great deal about your spiritual and religious dimensions in your life. You can also learn a great deal about yourself without encountering the fear or resistance that you often experience when you come face to face with the aspects of yourself that you consider less desirable. We talked about this a long time ago, right? Maybe last August, where it's like finding that yucky part. It was when you were digging the hole through the mountain, right? The tunnel through the mountain. It was called Hard Work Pays Off. And so maybe that hard work is coming to a fruition state, or there's a stage where you're like, okay, good, I heard good job. And now it's like, what else needs to be done, or how else can you expand that? It says you may feel more direct empathy for the suffering that you see. And you generally want to help. You seem to have a new understanding of the fact that we all are in the same boat, and what is done is to help one person is done to help all. Well, that's a lovely way to look at life, right? The circle, the sacred hoop. Maybe there is greater involvement in a spiritual space, or in a spiritual community, or, this could even be just, I don't know, you end up joining that Bible study, or you take on some kind of new stage where you're like, I want to learn more about that. I want to put myself into this and learn. You may not, for instance, agree or completely understand everything that's going on, but you're open to it. Which gives you a new opportunity to overcome, again, I see that fear or the resistance that maybe you felt, excuse me, how embarrassing, because of maybe the embarrassing things that you've had to endure with other people, right, in life, because we all have them, right? There's all those times where you're like, oh, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, or just forgiving someone for not being perfect, I guess. Because I guess we all need each other, right, to help each other along. yeah, sometimes we need others, for instance, to get us out of our own head, or to find, say you're at the very tail end of healing something or fixing something in yourself, or you've gathered a lot of information or a lot of something about it, understanding, right? Understanding. And then it's like, okay, I've come this far, and I know you do a lot on your own, right? Especially in that internal space. It's a very private space for you, so maybe this would be a time to tap into where you can receive advice or counsel outside of you. Because a courageous person, a person who has courage in their heart, who has faith in their heart, can receive advice. People who don't take advice are arrogant, right? Or prideful. Yeah, actually, it's interesting. I'm actually seeing all these cards as pride right now. But this is sandwiched between the Ace of Wands and the Six of Pentacles. So maybe there is something where, for some of you, you're finding compassion about something or finding a new understanding. This also reminds me of an older reading you had called Sitting Across from Yourself, that was probably a couple years ago, and that was about forgiving other people deeply. Really. And you were finding all these internal spaces inside of you, these really high level maturity internal spaces, so that the external then would match. And I guess over the last few years there's an example of that, maybe even recently, some kind of example of that. But the one part in that reading that still had to be worked out was you forgiving yourself too. I guess, which way do you do that? For instance, do you forgive the other person quickly? Or do you understand the other person very easily? Do you understand your own position more? Does that come more quickly? And maybe during this time frame, that may be something where you want to, I guess you have more of an opportunity to understand. So I guess remember your healing power of directing your energy the right way. Do you know what I mean? Oh yeah, let's open up these ones. Oh yeah, cool. Let's be creative. Just a second. So I found these little cards from they're from 1981. Maybe that's a year for you. How old were you in 1981? Oh, I saw that too, 9 years ago. Maybe when you were like 18, something like... Okay, let's see what they are. Just a second. Give me a second to tune in. There's a lot of words, so I want to make sure. There's a lot of information here. I want to make sure I'm what I'm connecting, and how does that feel? How have you been talking or sharing in ways of intimacy lately? You're a very serious sign. To me, you have you have a really old soul usually, right? Like, it feels that way. So being childlike or loving these smaller, more sensitive parts of you. Maybe you can I just saw a child, like a parent telling a child to clean up their toys. In their room, there was like a lot of little blocks scattered. And then the child puts them together and puts them away so that next time when they want to play, they know where everything is. Okay. When's the last time you saw a play? like a theater, a sort of theater production where it was like, not TV exactly, but because it's more like the person's right in front of you, but they're telling a story. A story you can understand. I like those words together. Story you can understand. The big book, big book. Okay. I'm missing things. I want to find. I can't misplace my fire. You always have to know where your fire is, right? Trustworthy person always knows where their fire is, has enough of it to do what they need to do when they need to use it. Otherwise, it stays in its place, right? This card actually has, I keep looking down towards the top of this V, and the words here are play, fun, pleasure, love affairs, affair, love, a love affair, affair, love. These seem a little bit different, right? Have you ever had one of those that are the same? And I know sometimes it's a gamble, right? Babbling Brooks. Babbling Brooks. Just a minute. Do you like to write? Have you been writing lately? Maybe you want to do some creative writing in this time. That could be something that's fun to do. You don't have to worry about whether you fail or not. I guess this is a part of things that you enjoy doing. You know, maybe you need to believe in yourself a little bit more and check in where you're lacking a little bit of follow through, whether it would be completing like that project or I see completing that poem. And wherever you have completed something, maybe it's remember that the follow through of say, for instance, like forgiving something else, understanding something else of the past, right? Where the emotional memory of it is no longer like stabbing you in the mind, stabbing you in the heart, you know? Like it may still bother you a little bit now and again, but it's not stabbing you, right? It's not a complete war energy. It's more mentality, right? Psychological. But it's like now. Well, I guess you realize that in essence you were the one stabbing yourself, so you sheathe your own sword. So you recognize a new kind of power about you. And I know pride, pride to Scorpio's hard, right? Leo, they say rules pride. And you're a square to that, so sometimes it can be hard to feel like I guess, okay, so you know when someone like uses big words, you know, they talk about, let's make some examples like that we've all probably experienced, like someone bragging about fighting, or I'm putting this all in males, but it's like bragging about fighting with somebody, or like how they won that, or, you know, how good they are at whatever they're good at, and how big they are, how strong they are. It's usually because they don't really feel that way, right? But just having the acknowledgement, for instance, that, I don't know, you are a good person. You are a loving, kind-hearted soul. Like, You can take your love, I say you can take your love, you take your love seriously, right? You take your love seriously. And you probably take a lot of like instant responses from that, from feelings, right? Because Cancer pulls your energy. But we talked about this, was it recently, right? Where the difference between when emotions are really big, when you're a sensitive person, sometimes that's just an emotional response. When the emotions are calm, when the sword is in the sheath, etc., the storm has, well, the storm has calmed within, right? You find the center, the eye of it. Then the intuition is right on, right? Because you're detached from any expectation of winning or losing. Okay, so you're shy, right? How are you shy? I feel like you know how you're strong. But where is it? What is this shyness about? Okay, so what have you been creating lately? What have you been doing? Like, however it is, with other people, creatively, like interpersonally, like what are you doing? Because I feel as if I don't feel like you're worried about something being perfect. No. And you're figuring out more of like magical kinds of influences, like magical threads, and like what you really relate to, how things go together. Right? So where is it that all of a sudden, even when you're feeling good, and I guess since we're talking about this time frame, I know sometimes it's hard for me when I read to come back into this very present, because, well, things only make sense when they make sense, and sometimes we can see things and sometimes we can't, sometimes, whatever. If we're talking about, let's bring it back in this time frame, some practical advice. So you'll be feeling good, and then sometimes it switcheroos a little bit. It may like, again, it's like where you're confident, and all of a sudden you're like shy, or you're scared, or you get like, it goes into this lull. How do we fix that? Star. Astrologically, no matter whether you look at sidereal or tropical, whatever your perspective is, Saturn is like dimming light a little bit, right? If you even notice the sun these days, and even the last, I don't know, half decade or so, the sun has been more white versus yellow and red, right? It's like a... It's changing. There's like, Saturn makes a filter on things. So this is where your light, your growth in self, your own even discipleship, right? How you're getting along with other people, how your money's doing. You know what I mean? Like where you're recognizing your own abilities, and then you're also like understanding more also, perhaps even about boundaries. Just a minute. I need you to know that wherever you're shy, that sometimes it's helpful to put yourself out there, even though sometimes it's hard to relate to other people. I know. You're like, can I really be who I am? Yes, you can. And even those parts where you have that vulnerability, say you are shy, say you go into this, like, you're always the king or queen of cups, right? And then you go on this little page. I guess when there's healing in the inner space of you too, that younger space of you, the past, right? Especially emotionally, this is going to help you so that when it comes more into this innocent space, this creative, playful place, you can let go of that seriousness, but you're doing it in the right way so that you can create more of something that you're really wanting. Yes. and actually relate to other people, because maybe that's a part of it. Is sometimes we think like, oh, okay, I'm an adult, you're an adult, we're relating as adults, and I'm sure that's accurate, right, to a certain extent. But if we all have this inner child, if we all have our, again, everything we physically had to endure that affected us emotionally anytime from now into the past, I guess we're also even relating to each other's younger selves. And I see that this is actually a very healthy relationship. You know, it's like where you learn from one another. Because if you think about children, say even with advice or interacting or whatever, kids will bicker, but then they'll play with each other 5 seconds later. I mean, because nothing actually, because it's usually not anything big. You know what I mean? It's just figuring out like what goes together or how to interact and play. You know, that's why that's why we do that. That's why children hang out with other children, right? Is to figure out what the order is, or like how things go together. And I guess maybe I'm seeing you like at a playground. Maybe that's something you can untangle yourself from, is some sort of like school, some memory during school. Some embarrassing moment. Yeah, you can heal that. Cool. Okay. Interesting. I heard if you were, okay, this is an interesting exercise. Okay, if you were, I mean, I guess you could do this with your own children regardless of how old they are. But I'm seeing it from like an adult to a child. But the exercise specifically was, you write a letter, so to your inner child, right? You write a letter to them as if you were their parent, and what you would want them to know. You know, what would your advice be to your inner child? Maybe you want to be, there's really some awesome creative writing in this time. Some creative expression, creative communication. Okay, I do feel like this time is definitely a new start with you, so maybe you want to think about, well, I heard, say all the toxic things were gone, what would you do? Do you remember that reading where it's like, I have no problems. I have no problems. The wind just became so soft and cool. It's like it cooled out the fire that burns you. I have no problems. Actually, you know what my buddy Jean-Luc Van Damme taught me? He's such a cool friend. It's not a problem until it's a problem, right? With certain things, it's like, it's not worth it to stress about it, you know, or to anticipate and be anxious about what it will all be. Sometimes we have to jump with faith, you know. I mean, of course, there are times of because you're not a child, you're an adult, with that spontaneous nature that would be something to make sure that you're not feeling scattered before you choose, right? Just because you're energetic and have gusto about it, you still want to be alert. You know what I'm saying? And I do really see you blending this emotional and spiritual space together. Like you're building more confidence. Yes. And I really do feel like you're softening something emotionally with the past. Like you are learning some kind of beautiful lesson about a deeper part of you. It's like, to me, this is you passed the test. You know, here's the past, here's a feeling, here's the past, here's you moving forward from that with confidence, right? Then there's a test. Well, I guess that tests your soul, right? When we move forward. And it's like, are you going to be afraid? Are you going to feel confident? Are you going to be accepting? Right? But you'll relate to that through residence, right? And I see that you pass the test, you learn it, which gives you a new opportunity to be creative in your communication, and also having, this is strongly about forgiving others. This is also feeling safer in love. And you know, maybe that's a big part of it. Ace of Cups, Ace of Swords. Hey, baby. Hey, sugar. It's cloudy today. That was the first turkey vulture I've seen. They fly low when it first starts. They have to wait for the light and the warmth to come out before they rise high. They rest when it's a little dark, you know, but point is obviously there's some sort of this is real love. This is love that is, this is strong spiritual love too. It's like you're fixing like a trust thing. And maybe for some of you it is about boundaries. It's really important. Because it's almost like learning how to confront something at the right time. Or how's the right way to confront? Yeah. Like, when is it appropriate to push through something, you know, to make a point, or to, you know, and how is it that you can disengage with great self-authority, because you know that that's what, you know, only children fight. Only children fight. Bicker. Like, really, that's what causes the drama, is the child, you know? When we feel confident as an adult, right, then there is no barking dog. Not really. And if the barking dog happens to come up, it doesn't affect you. Do you know what I'm saying? Interesting reading. Babbling Brooks. I see, if you're contemplating, I'm seeing these words together, like gambling on an ex. Maybe some of you are curious about, well, you know, like, if something has hurt you, Scorpio, and that has not, that was, if something hurts you and it's repetitive, you have to understand that sometimes you have a dualistic nature, mentally, to tell stories that aren't true to yourself. And so you have to be the professor of your mind and realize that maybe part of that, what I saw earlier about the follow through, could also be like where you close the book. You know what I mean? You finish that book and then you start a new book. Like, just, maybe that's that gambling exes. It's like maybe some of you need to close, like, it's like the book's already over, so now you just, you finish that book. I mean, can you go back and relate to it and learn from it if you need to? Check your highlighted parts. Sure, you can. But you don't have to keep rereading the same story, especially if it well, I guess is hurting you too much. I see there's a time and a place for that, but most things, that's not the point. You want to follow the footsteps in the sand, like to find your way out of the desert. You know what I mean? You have to go towards the light. The Muskogee tribe too. Part of seeing their story where, like, They went towards the east. You know, they went towards the light to find their creator. Yeah. Yeah. And this is where, again, you have to trust yourself intuitively. You know, you have to trust yourself in your body and where, like, and oh, this is so beautiful, Scorpio. Look at this. Maybe some of you are healing something with family. Either way, to me, this is also about self-respect, right? And having because the intuitive side comes through the feminine. And again, I'm seeing that exercise of you writing to your child, or like to your inner self. Like maybe you want to even pick different topics, you know. I mean, you can write whatever you want, but I'm seeing that where it's almost like, again, you give advice to your child or to your inner self. What would you say if these were the words to help them along? You know what I mean? Experiences maybe you've been through, but explaining it. Explaining things to a child is different sometimes than explaining things to an adult, right? There's softer energy there, hopefully. I mean, there of course can be soft with the adult, but there's something about the words you use, right, when you're speaking to a child, or you see the sun. And I am seeing someone like picking up a child, and like the little baby's arms are out, and it's just so happy, and like it did the thing where you like throw it up in the air and then catch it. And, you know, if you think about that, some people will be so uptight about that, right? Like, oh, it's so fragile, like I can't let go of it. And it's like, yes, you can, and then you just catch it when it's there. You know, you just don't let it fall. You can let go of it, but don't let it fall. Huh. Awesome reading. Thank you for being you. I hope this was of service. I hope you have a happy now. This is a inconjunct time if you find this in April. So you doing a little tweaking, if you will, or different contemplation to who it is that you are, or who you are desiring to be in this life, like the definition of you, feel free to do that. And again, I see some creative writing may be very helpful, you know, maybe to recognize some of your powers, or recognize where all that light, hey now, or recognize also like where you need to make some boundaries with yourself, as if, again, your choices were, you were taking this parental role for yourself, regardless of your age. It's helpful. Because there's no way for one person to be perfect, right? We have to look at things. And again, what advices are you getting from your friends, or what inspirational conversations are happening? Because those could also be very helpful, again, in maybe finding that, like, because there's one puzzle piece too. It's like you're almost done this one puzzle, but you may need someone, like a different person's perspective, and again, you have an opportunity to find that right now, or it's available to you. So yeah, to find maybe your true confidence, or your understanding about, again, who you are, and how bright that can be. All right. I love you so much. Please take care. Thank you for all your support. It's always a pleasure. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.